1975, and this was a bass caught while dibbling.
He's a legal one.
All right, this is my father's old tackle box, and it's been over 50 years ago now that he and I was just a young kid, and he was really teaching me how to do this, but we were making plugs. These are the last two of a run of about 100 that we made, and we caught it's all kinds of stuff with just these simple pieces of wood. Now I'm going to take you back even further than that, back to the 1920s, and we're going to make a dibbling plug. Now dibbling was not only a technique, but a plug that you used, and this was the technique of the 1920s and 30s when my grandfather was a guide for catching big bass. And there's no financial incentive to keep this technique alive today because there's nothing to sell. This is a plug that you're going to make yourself. I'm going to teach you how to do this in a real quick video here and the technique. Now I've expanded that during my guiding time to catching saltwater fish, notably snook, redfish, trout, and mangrove snapper. Well, the first thing we're going to have to do is go out and cut some sticks, and we'll go out and do that now. Alright, we've cut our stick. Ideally, you'd like to cut a piece of hardwood, but any old stick will do. I've seen my grandfather do this many times with his pocket knife. Now, we want to take 3 inches, and we're going to mark that. I'm going to cut it. I'm not quite as dedicated. I'm going to cut it with a saw, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and we've cut out a bunch of blanks. These are the naturals, of course. You'll notice that some of them are longer than others. These are 3.5 inches. Some of our fish, notably the snook, likes bigger plugs, and there's a reason for that. The bigger the fish, it has to know when it strikes something that it's going to get more than it expends in energy, and that's basically the reason you'll get even a mangrove snapper, you know, trying to hit on a 7-inch plug. All right, so you can make them up to any size you want. I tend to range from 3 to 3.5. I have made them up to 7 inches, but the 3.5s work really, really good. Okay, I like using the dowel rods, as I said before, because I don't have to look for a 3/4 inch thick piece of wood on a tree. You know, I can just go down and they're all uniform when I buy them. I'm just cutting a bell mouse out with a drill bit. That's all we're doing. All right, I'm working on the other end of the plug. I've drilled a hole, and what we're going to do is we're going to take and drop a drop of super glue in, and then we're going to screw a stainless steel eyelet in, and we're also going to put one on the bell mouth end. We're going to take and put one, you're going to measure halfway of your plug, halfway. You're going to come out a 1/16 of an inch forward of that. You're going to drill a hole and you're going to put an eyelet. They're all going to, you want them all lining up, okay? So you can cast it and you can catch a fish. The idea of what we've done here is I've just whittled this off. See that? Whittled it off so that we've lightened the back end of the plug. And that's more important than probably what you think. Eventually we're going to hang some baits down here. We're also going to hang a bait in the middle on some applications. 1 bait per throw. And by lightening this back here, it's not going to stand up like a popping cork when we do use this end hanger. You don't want it standing up. Popping cork is not the idea here. All right, I'll see you upstairs. All right, this is a part of the video you might want to show people because it surprises them a lot. This is 30-pound test, 20-pound test, 12-pound test, 10-pound test, 8-pound test, 6-pound test, 4-pound test. And you see this line right here? That's 10-pound braid. All right, we've got our lure painted white. Why white? Well, because all fish's bellies practically are white. It's a color universally understood by all fish, and it stands out under any kind of sky. So no matter how this twists and turns, they're going to see a white fish's belly. All right, we've got this dibbling plug set up to catch mangrove snapper. I've got, my selection was 8-pound test. As you can see, it's virtually invisible. And this allows me to catch mangrove snapper during the daytime. Anytime in the daytime I can catch a big one. Got a little Berkeley minnow here on the end of it. It's weighted, so I've chose the middle hanger so it'll float this plug flat. If I had just a hook, in my grandfather's day for bass fishing, they would throw a hook on here with a piece of pork rind dangling, and typically they'd throw that in front of the cattails, and this is pure meat fishing. They depended on this during the Great Depression to put a meal on the table. You know, when you go down to the bank and the bank doesn't have any money. So that's the kind of environment they were living in, kind of an alternate universe there. And you hang your line back here, minimal weight on the back because you don't want this plug sitting like any more than 20 degrees. You don't want it in a position like that. That's not the idea. And what we're going to do, we're going to toss it out. I've got a loop knot here. I've got a loop knot here for my main line, and I'm going to double wrap that around so I double my bearing strength. Also on the little minnow here, I've doubled my bearing strength, and that allows me, I can even catch a big fish on light line, because that's usually the point it snaps is right there. Okay, I think you can see if you tied a wacky worm for modern days, if you tied a wacky worm on it, in their day it was a pork rind, and you're dibbling this plug up here like this, and that wacky worm is floating up and down like that, how that would definitely get a big bass to strike. And this was the big bass technique of the 20s. Big saltwater fish, snook, trout, redfish, that kind of thing. You're going to take a heavy hook, and by a heavy hook I mean construction more than anything else. Actually, this little hook here weighs almost as much as this hook. And I have pulled grouper in with nothing more than that. That's a Mustad number 2. I'm not recommending it, but have done it. But you're going to take your hook with either your live shrimp, sardine, or your dead bait, and hang it down here 6 inches to 2 feet. Usually off this back hanger works the best. But at any rate, you want to hook heavy enough to hold your bait down while you're working it. You're going to walk the dog, and then you're going to dibble. Walk the dog, dibble. And that's why we have the loop knot up here in the front. What are the appropriate reels to use. Well, this was my grandfather's freshwater reel up until 1958. This was his saltwater reel for his lifetime. So if you've got something more than these, you're in business. So how are we going to work this? Well, for freshwater bass, I'm going to toss this out, and when it hits the water, I'm going to pop it aggressively twice. You've made a popper on the end of the plug, so you can use this multiple ways. And then I'm going to count to 3. I'm not going to let all the ripples die, but I'm going to count to 3, and then we're going to start dibbling the plug. And when I can no longer feel it, then I'm going to walk the dog till I can feel the plug again. Then we're going to dibble again. Okay, my neighbor's Gary's dock. We're going to use that as a stand of cattails. I'm going to lay this right on it. All right. Pop it twice. Count to 3. Then we're going to start dibbling. It's really not going anywhere. We're just keeping that minnow hopping. All right, I can't feel it anymore. So now I'm going to walk the dog so I can feel it. Start dibbling again. That's your bass fishing technique. All right, how are we going to do for saltwater fish? Well, there's a couple of ways. Actually, there's a multiple of ways. But again, you've got a bell mouth that you've made in your plug. So for species that are attracted to noise like trout and especially mangrove snapper, you're going to pop your plug, dibble it, walk the dog, pop the plug, dibble it, walk the dog, in that kind of manner. Now for species that are sound averse like snook and redfish, you're going to cast this past your target, and then you're going to walk the dog, a silent technique, back to where they are. You see the school or you see the fish, and then you're going to dibble it right in front of them. That's the technique.